All right, you're still watching the lifestyle segment on the weekend show, and we are having with us now the Executive Secretary of the State Emergency Management Agency, UB State, Dr. Goje Mohammed. He'll be joining us this morning to talk about efforts of the agency in combating flood across the state and also, across the nation, really, then also plans that they have to mitigate flooding disasters in the coming weeks. And we have with us Dr. Goje Mohammed from UB States. All right, he's joining us on Zoom,
Yes.
and we'll be having him join us, in this conversation while we wait for Dr. Goje. Okay, he's here with us already.
Yes,
Good
he
morning,
is.
Dr. Goje.
Good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning.
We're
Thank you.
glad to have you here on the weekend show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. I can hear him just faintly. If you can just correct that. All right, so but let's get straight
Yeah,
into
can,
it,
can you
because
hear
of
me
our
now?
time. So, sir, I know about the palliatives that were shared in UB State, according to or because of the flood disasters. And what interests me particularly is, the reasons as to why and how this was, executed in UB State. If you can share with us some insights on that.
Thank you very much. For us in Yobe State, just like the country on other locations, usually when we receive the NIMET prediction and other predictions on flood, we brief His Excellency, the Executive Governor, and at the beginning of the season, because of our experience in 2022, when we brief His Excellency,
We can
he
hear
directed
you.
us to prepare
We can hear you.
against worst case scenario. So we review
Can you
our
put the volume? We can't hear you.
We
strategies,
can't.
we review our plans, and we ensure that we have enough resources to respond in the case of emergency. But then that's not the new approach entirely. We also ensure that we give more effort to mitigation and prevention. So we analyze communities that are at risk to relocate them to safer locations. We also look at opportunities to make sure that communities that have risks of water overflowing and affecting their houses, to create some embankments along that communities. But then the worst case is when we received the Cameroonian Lagdo Dam discharge warning from the National Emergency Management Agency. That has alerted us more because in Yobe, in most cases, when the overflow of dams from Benue, Hadeja, and other dams, it flows towards Yobe on its route to the Lake Chad Basin, so to the Lake Chad River. So we have to become alert to ensure that what happened in 2022 does not repeat itself. And that is what is guiding our operations as directed by our governor. And we're not doing bad on that. And we are hoping that it will not be as worse as we experienced in 2022. But generally, when it comes to flooding, there are three aspects of the prevention. One is the willingness of persons to agree and adhere to preventive measures. It doesn't necessarily mean government must do it alone, but most importantly, the communities that are affected. Then another thing is for the for government to ensure that there are available resources in case of emergency, resources in form of location to move victims, resources in form of providing basic service to the victims, and also proposing resources in form of maybe embankment or excavating the water so that it will have an alternative route to follow. Another aspect is how to harvest the water, and that's what we're advocating. We can't be waiting for water every year to come flood our communities and also live without using the water. So we're looking at the long term to harvest the water, erect some dams behind communities so that we'll use it for dry season farming. And this year is coming with some complications. With the subsidy removal and the ongoing hardship people, especially in the rural areas and farmers, are undergoing, when if it floods and affects community, that means the adverse effect will be complicated. But we thank God for the ongoing support in terms of both livelihood and agricultural intervention to ease the suffering of communities. At least it will lessen the effect even when it happens. We cannot escape it, of course. These are natural disasters, and in most cases, predictions allow us to prepare, but we can prevent and reduce the magnitude and effect of the disaster.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Goje, for that briefing. But it would also be interesting to know. I know that this morning there was news about flooding in Yobe State with 2 people dead and 14 others injured. I would like a brief on that before we come back to your recent activities and what you distributed, in relation to the flooding in the state. But first, give us a brief on what happened this morning and what steps SEMA has taken.
Actually, there was heavy flooding. It was the day before yesterday in Damaturu, the state capital. And we went out around 2 a.m. to rescue some of the victims. There was a school that was affected. It's a local school, and 16 children were affected because of building collapse. Unfortunately, one of the child died, but all the remaining ones were rescued. They were treated in the hospital and discharged free. Of course, His Excellency Governor Buni has always directed that medication for all victims of disaster should be free. But what happened in the state capital, affecting almost 200 households, is as a result of most of the communities that were earlier alerted since 2014 to relocate those locations, to leave that location to a safer location. In fact, from the record, some of the communities were even compensated. But of course, time in, time out, people become adamant because of culture, because of people feel land issues shouldn't be just left. So these are some of the complicating factors. But be it as it may be, as government, whatever the reason, the safety of community and public is one of our major concerns. So we thank God for now. Most of the communities, most of the victims were safe, and we have some little issues of our community challenges where one community refused to allow water to pass through them to exit to the to locations outside the town. So we insisted on community dialogue. We called the 2 leaders. We sat down, and already there was an agreement, and that blockage has been cleared, and we are hopeful that it will not happen again. And all the households that were affected were assessed, were registered, and we'll support them with basic services this morning, and will continue until we reach the last 211 households.
What you recently distributed in the state to mitigate the flooding, the impact of flooding, and how people benefited from that. It would be interesting to hear what you did in recent times.
Yeah, recently we distributed livelihoods, food, non-food items to 2022 flood victims. And this one was supported by Federal Government of Nigeria through the Special National Economic Intervention the Recovery Program to support 2022 flood victims. In Yobe, in 2022, we have over 24,000 victims, which were profiled and registered, and we are fortunate to start reaching out to them. And it's coming at a time, at the right time. One, because for victims of flood, recovery takes a long time, especially those that have lost their farmland, that have lost their houses, and that may not have anything to rely on. So the livelihood equipment, be it household food items, be it NFIs, or anything that will help them start and pick up the businesses, will help and motivate the process. Most interestingly is the fact that a lot of women are involved, and we have supported them. And additionally, His Excellency Governor Boni directed that when we are supporting victims with the palliatives, we should prioritize IDPs, we should prioritize flood victims, and we should prioritize persons living with disability. And it will interest you to know that because of the coordination and the willingness of the government to reach almost most of the affected victims, we do distribution seemingly without any harassment, without any difficulties, and beneficiaries pick their items and go home. And we'll continue doing that until we get available resources to ensure that our victims are more supported. In Damaturu, where the floods happen, and in Portiscum, where we have the large population, we emphasize on giving food basket to the households, so that will reduce the burden that is already existing, and household heads will have the energy to go out and do their menial jobs to provide and to repair their houses.
All right, Dr. Goje, thank you so much. I do think that there's a video, just to cement what you have said and see in real time some of the things that you have done in your base states. And I'll be taking a look at that video now. All right, then. While we try to see if we can get the video playing, back to you, Dr. Goje. It would also be interesting to know a little bit about your interaction at the state level with the National Emergency Management Agency in relation to the Lagdo Dam. I know that there was a meeting in Abuja recently after the press release was sent out, and we've also had concerns. Of course, Yobe State is not one of the states that will be flooded, but it is surrounded by, there are states that, are close to Yobe State that might be affected. So tell me, what's the plan? What's the bigger picture for you? How do you intend to manage the issue of internally displaced persons and the impact of the flooding as it would affect Yobe State?
Their livelihood.
From our own end, the first thing is to receive the information, to disseminate the findings to His Excellency the Executive Governor, and we have done that, and he has given us a heads-on to come up with plans for mitigation. We have a very good working relationship with the National Emergency Management Agency, and our communication is very open, and most of the time we do respond jointly when there are needs. And on this particular issue, as I said earlier, Yobe State in most cases is at the receiving end. Most of the water, after flowing to all the states on its route to the Lake Chad, it passes through Yobe and it affects almost 5 to 6 LGS in Yobe State. And it's not magic. It is waters flow through the natural route, and we know the communities. Now we intensify on stakeholders' engagement because of our culture and our norms. We call stakeholders from those communities, we engage them, and next is to look for enabling laws in the event where people are adamant, evacuate those people to a safer location. And we are on that, and already some of the communities are alerted that they should move upperland location. We have reached almost a level that we provide alternative safe location for the community and drill water bores for them so that when they move there, they will have access to water. But of course, people have been used to their communities. Some of them have already planted their crops in those locations, and some feel predictions are not always accurate, so they will take the risk of staying there. So we are now at the crossroad of ensuring that those high-risk locations are at least safe. And also, we have alternative
so much
emergency
for joining us this morning. The insights
locations.
and the briefing you've given us on these topics in Yobe State has been very insightful. Honestly, you've done a good job in Yobe State, and you mentioned the livelihoods of the people that live there. So well done, and we look forward to hearing more about your updates from Yobe State. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goje Mohammed.
Thank you.
All right. That was a good one.
Yes, and we do hope that in, planning their responses, they are also including women and girls,
Definitely.
and also minor and other minority groups. And we look forward to how that will play out in the coming weeks. And that's it for the lifestyle segment of the Weekend Show. We'll be back in a bit as the Weekend Show continues. Do stay with us. More interesting segments coming your way.